Hey YouTube, welcome back to another video. I thought I would make a video about an odd position I'm in where I own 6 bass trombones at the same time. This doesn't usually happen. I've been down to 1 bass trombone several times. Usually I have 2 or 3. I have like one that I use all the time, one that I use in other places, and then, like another bass trombone. Right now, I have 6. So, in this rare moment where I have all 6, even though I will not have these all for very long, I thought I'd make a video about it. I'm going to do like a small review of each horn, give a little sound sample of a couple different things from each one, and just give impressions of each one of these 6 actually very good bass trombones. It's a moment where I have 6 horns that are not bad, which is really cool. Anyway, here we go. So before we get started with the actual reviews of the horns and the sound bites, I have a little recording of each instrument in a couple different ways. I want you to realize that I made the recordings to be representative of each instrument. That means, I did as many takes as it needed to be, so it was a clean-ish recording. But if the horn is preventing me from doing something, or is doing a weird quirk, or is throwing me off, like breath-wise or time-wise, I'm leaving that in, because that's part of the instrument, and it needs to be in the recording. I'm not trying to get an absolutely perfect take of each thing as I go through, because that's not the point of this little review. All right, moving on. So, first horn up today, both in the intro and in the sound bites you just heard, is the King 7B. Usual thing for Kings, we got nickel tubes, yellow crook, yellow brass valve section, and on this one, a rose bell. What's special about these? Well, honestly, the fact is they're just not super special. They're just kind of clean horns that just make bass trombone noise. Like all Kings, these are through designed, which means instead of copying parts and like using the same bits from previous instruments, basically every single King is like a clean sheet. They're like, all right, things are going to look the same as a King, but this lead pipe is different. These slide tubes might be slightly different. I don't know if the crook is exactly the same as the 6B, but I have a feeling it's not. Obviously, it's independent, and it might have similar valves, like size-wise to a 6B, but they're not going to be the same. Wraps, obviously, are brand new. Tuning slide is not interchangeable with the 6B, and as far as I know, the bell is actually completely new as well. So King is weird like that. Like, is there really a reason you have to design the horn from the ground up every time? Apparently there was, and this ends up being a pretty good horn. One of the quirks about the McCracken designs, McCracken was the guy who designed the 6B and a bunch of other Kings, is that he keeps the valve bore the same as the slide bore. So these are 562 valves on this 562 bass, which means they play easily, they play quickly, and they're not stuffy per se, but they're not going to be the most open things on the planet. So that's a choice they made, and it works out. One thing you might notice is that I'm not using my marquee mouthpiece because it does not work on this. I can make it work, it makes noise, but a smaller mouthpiece really makes this thing honk. And you can tell in the sound recordings, this is not exactly a horn made for Bordoni. It really wants to zing, it wants to project, it wants to play short notes, and it does all those things really well. It's not also the most even instrument on the planet, but it also doesn't have any like really stuffy or strange ranges. High range is good, low range can really rip if you hit it just right. And of course for me, the smaller mouthpiece makes things a little more difficult. So yeah, King 7B, good horn. This one is basically already sold, and that's why I'm making this video now and not in like a week when it's gone. I have somebody ready to buy it, and not exactly like sad to see it go, but it is a cool horn, and I'm glad I got to put it in this video. All right, on to the next one. Next up, we have the Yamaha 613. No letters, that's it. It's just 613, in case you're waiting for one. This is a horn that I don't practice. It just sits in a double case, and then when I play at Disney or in a big band, I play it. So I actually don't play it in this room very often. Since I got it about a year ago, something like that. I actually don't remember. I love this horn. It is not special in any particular way, except that it's just kind of easy to play and it just makes a nice bass trombone noise. I have, over the last year of playing it in a lot of different situations, noticed some downsides. Let's see, some of them. The sound does not have the same weight that, say, my orchestral horns do. So if I want to play really big and loud and just kind of, large, the horn kind of goes, that's not what I'm supposed to do. I used this in a wind ensemble and it just kind of fell apart. It was not the right instrument. The high range works, it's all there, but it's a little less easy to play as you go higher. I'd say kind of past tuning B flat. Yes, all the notes are there, they're in tune, they're not weird, but the horn does not really give you the help like some other more modern instruments might. I still think it's better than most Yamaha 830 Xenos that I played, where there's just literally no help. The slot feels like it's this big. That's not the case here. It's just a little more difficult, and for most of the playing I do, not a big deal. And if you play it right, it just works. Valves work. They're great. I like the low range on this. It's got some really kind of thick pedals if you play them right. And one of the best things is it's so light. This is probably the lightest bass I have of all the horns here, and that's exactly what I need for what I use it for. So yeah, Yamaha 613 a year later-ish. Amazing horn. I would recommend this as any bass for a beginner. If you're getting into bass trombone, this is just about all you ever need. And for a lot of people, this is probably all you ever have to end up playing. I could use this in an orchestra or wind ensemble or something if I really kind of change things up. But yeah, great horn. I have no reason to see this going anywhere. It is a perfect commercial horn and just makes that nice fat sound all the time. All right, on to the next one. So now we're into the orchestral horns. Yeah, I got 4 of these for some reason. Yeah, I don't know why either. This is my Shires George Koran, which is just kind of a bog standard setup of Shires parts. It's got the B6278 slide, the exact same slide that I have already, except with the Shires tenon, of course. The lightweight axial set, which means there's not as much nickel tubing here, and there's fewer braces. There's no brace on the tuning slides themselves. A C tuning slide, which is the larger one, and the GC bell, which is some kind of bell. It doesn't say on there, so I don't know. I think it's just a 7 B27Y M-ish, and I think there's some slightly small treatment to that. and a 2 lead pipe. So it's like literally just right down the middle of the road of all the Shires stuff you could get. And it's amazing. You can tell that this is a big horn with a dual bore slide and axials and stuff. There's little things that, especially coming from the 2 single bores that I just played, I played all these recordings in a row, I really had to modify the way I was using my air to get this to work. But once you do that, this is one of the easiest horns I have to play. It is so even. All the ranges work. The articulation just kind of like doesn't change per register. It's crazy how much easier and centered and like finessed the high range is on this compared to the Yamaha 613 that I just played. It's just like cake. Yes, it's still a bass trombone. It's not going to like play itself or play high Fs all day, but it's just so easy. Asterisk, if you play instruments like this and you're used to that dual bore, axial, etc. kind of setup. I have friends who play this and they're like, wow, I can tell this is probably good, but it just is not what I'm used to. You really do have to dial yourself in for a kind of different style of using your air and all that kind of stuff in order to make this work. And it does help that I'm using a relatively efficient mouthpiece. The Marquee 87 kind of just matches well. And I think this would really come to life if I played a big mouthpiece and just, play this all the time. But as it is, it's one of the best horns I've ever played. And I kind of also don't see it going anywhere. Yikes. That's at least 2 basses that I'm probably keeping. All right, next. The Monster Bass! So, this is the Monster Bass. I had this made for me a couple years ago now, 3-ish, 4-ish years ago now, kind of to my specifications, and actually some parts were kind of based on the Shires Koran, which we just saw. It's got the same exact slide, B6278, with a nickel crook, 2 lead pipe. I have an axial set that is made to be lightweight. These are the same short length tubes, and there's no brace up here. And in fact, there's no braces except for the one spider brace. Of course, the tuning slide is a copper hula reversed tuning slide, and I have my Corporation bell on here. So this test is actually not a full test of the monster horn. I have 2 more bells, 3 more slides, a bunch of lead pipes I could play in those slides, a bunch of different options. This horn is actually like 7 different horns if I wanted to combine them all. This, in my testing, and I've been doing a lot of testing with this lately, is the best playing and sounding version of the monster horn. I've gone through all of them. Since I got the Shires George Koran, I've been like, all right, so how does it really stack up, this versus the Koran, which is a very specially good instrument? How does this stack up? And can I make it as good or better? And so I've gone through my 1981 bell, which is not cut. It's like this. I have a cut Corporation bell. I have 2 different Edwards slides and a Bach 50 slide, a bunch of different lead pipes. This is the closest setup to the Koran, and overall, just the best. And what do I have to say about it? Well, honestly, it doesn't quite stack up. There's just a little bit left on the table that the Koran just does so easily. It might not be easy to hear on that side of the screen, and actually this does have a very cool color to it when I play it correctly. I can hear those extra like higher overtones that the Koran might cut off a little bit in the way that it produces sound. But there's something about the way that this plays that's just, the difficulty level has been turned up to medium when I want it to be uneasy, and I can never quite turn it all the way back down to easy. There's something about this that just makes life a little more difficult than it should be. I actually got pretty quick takes of both of the recordings. I was actually very surprised. But I always notice when I play that Bordoni, I've been playing it a lot because it's on an audition coming up, that I can't get the same note connection and same legato when I play this. And the big thing, and I'm not sure if this comes across in the recordings, is that when I take a breath, when I take a breath on the Koran, almost no matter what the breath is, where I put it, how much it is, the next note just comes out and I don't have to worry about it. On this, I miss that note a significant percentage of the time. I don't know what that difference is. There's something about these horns that is just different enough that this is just more difficult. And I've run into that for the last couple years, and I've kind of mostly assumed it was me, and that was actually probably the case most of the time. But now that I have some better instruments to compare, some of it is this. Some of the problems are here. And of course, with my other setups, they just don't sound as good. They don't play as well. The screw bell in particular is definitely not nearly as close to as refined or as deep of a sound as this makes. So I'm really not sure what's going to happen with this. As of right now, I don't have a reason I would choose this over the Koran or one of the instruments coming up later in this video. So it's tentatively near the chopping block. I don't think I'm just going to straight up sell it in all my parts and just be like, all right, I'm done. But there's more experimenting to do. The one thing that I do have that I would like to try, uncover it from my pile of parts, is I have a standard Bach 50 tuning slide. And I have a feeling, and my tech who made this does as well, that the copper tuning slide on this makes it just a little bit hot, a little bit lively, when I don't always want lively. So I'm going to have this reversed and probably cut down a little bit as well, and have a different tuning slide just to see if this can be tamed and maybe made to play a little bit more easily. I'm not sure. The low range on this, below, B flat, bottom of the staff, sounds good, but it is always just a little bit more present, a little bit more shouty than I want it to be, and I can't ever seem to take that edge off. I actually noticed that playing duets with a friend. He's like, wow, those are some kind of hot low notes, and I was like, yeah, and I can't make them not hot. Obviously, some of that's probably me, but playing these other horns, they don't do that. So, some danger for this horn. I love it. It plays great, but it's just not quite as good. Danger zone. Anyway, on to the next one. The second-ish Bach in the collection right now, 50 K3 LG, right now with a Edwards DBB, right? That's what it is? Yeah, it's a DBB, which means no oversleeves and yellow crook. So dual bore Edwards slide with a 2 lead pipe. I think it's just the 2. I have a 2 and a 2L, which is long, and I don't remember which one is in each slide, because I have another Edwards slide, of course. This is the big boy, 10.5-inch bell, K valves. This one is kind of pre-sold. I have somebody who is going to buy it and just hasn't come up with the money yet, and that's fine. For now, I'm hanging on to it. This is a special instrument, honestly. It is such a cool sounding instrument. It makes such a great legato sound. Just ties notes together with this great pitch center. It's just, there's something about it that I love. For me, I just don't need it. I mean, it sounds awesome. I probably could have used it maybe like a month ago on a concert series, but I just wouldn't use it that often, and it is clunky. The second valve is slow. That's full speed right now. It just doesn't move that fast. Even the first valve, the F valve, that's full speed. And they play okay, but they don't play amazing. The evenness of this horn is kind of strange. Everything from low B to high B flat is honestly pretty great. It doesn't like play exactly the same in the double valve range, but all of it has really good pitch center. It's really easy to just kind of boop, boop, let these notes come out. The high range on this is strangely good, but the pedals are different. They're there. You can play them. They will come out, and sometimes easily, but they just have a different response and honestly a different sound than most of these other instruments do. I'm not sure what it is. I have aligned the K valves, like they are set up about as well as they can be without being a little bit faster. I've tried a bunch of different slides, different lead pipes and stuff. The pedals are just weird. I've never run into that on a horn where just one part of the range is just different. And just like in a completely different way. Like low B, this great note, and then pedal B flat is fine, but it's different. Why is it different? It's almost like something in here is kind of preventing pedals from being the best that they can be. I don't know what that is. That plus the kind of clunky ergonomics. The second valve lever is wrong. It shouldn't be like this. The originals kind of get out of your way a little better. The slow valves, it's just enough things that make me go, you know what, I don't need to keep this because I won't really get to use it enough. I also used it in trombone quintets yesterday, and I was not super stoked with how it worked on the fourth part. I actually didn't play it on fifth part, the lower bass trombone part. I probably should have, but on fourth part, it just didn't really seem to jive with the ensemble. So I love it. It's one of the cooler horns that I have, and playing the Bordonis on it is so satisfying. It's probably, out of all these horns, maybe like the first or second most fun to just express on. But that's not something I get paid for. So this one, already pre-sold, and will get picked up at some point, and I'll be down to fewer basses. But what a cool instrument. And I feel a little bad for the guy who sold it to me because he just said it didn't work. And that's mainly because the valves are totally out of alignment, and the slide it came with was not a good match. So another one of those instruments that is very good in potential and just was not reaching that potential. And even right now, the potential is probably higher than it's at. So that's the K valve. One more to go. Last one up, and most special, is the B&S MeisterSinger Sarastro bass trombone. These were developed by Carl Lenthe at University of Indiana. Indiana University, it's IU, right? Anyway, Carl Lenthe developed these, and honestly, this is one of the best sounding and best playing bass trombones I've ever played. Straight up. It is amazing. I've had several friends play it now, and almost every one of them is like, this is the best bass you've ever owned. When are you selling it? I've had like 4 people tell me that, and I'm like, well, hold up. I'm keeping it for now. I really like this instrument. I really liked the one that I played a month ago or so, and I just randomly got one of these on Dylan for a very cheap price. It turns out it was an ex-demo horn, so it was in a shop somewhere. Got played a few times, and they didn't sell it, so it got sold as a demo instrument, and I got insanely lucky because it came with original case, all the parts. It's in fantastic shape. It's got like 3 scratches. Like, who cares? I do not care about that kind of stuff. But it is beautiful, and it sounds beautiful. It just makes such a colorful, dark, interesting sound in like every range, kind of like no matter how you play. It is not the easiest horn to play. The Shires Koran, for me, is a way easier instrument to just pick up and go, bop. This, actually, despite being a single bore 562 bass trombone, takes more air to play than the Shires Koran does because it's just different. The area up here behind the valves and going into the tuning slide and going into this is huge. It's like Edwards sized-ish. But it doesn't give off those kind of boring Edwards vibes that I usually get out of Edwards. The valves are massive. They're like 610, 620 through the first valve, so it's a dual bore valve section, and then 630, 650 through the second valve. So quad bores through the two valves. I have 3 different lead pipes I can play. It's got asymmetrical crooks. I'm going to do a deep dive and review of this instrument later. I love it. It is such a cool horn. I am not going to sell it. I usually get horns like this and I'm like, neat. Anyway, here you go, sell it. I've had a couple Shaw girls that were really cool. I've had another Shires. I've had some cool Bachs. This is one of the few horns that I've had come through my hands and I'm like, yeah, I just want this. Like, this does not need to go away. I want to play this. When I play this in trombone ensemble settings, it is magical. Fills out the bottom part. It plays perfectly on fourth, playing above the lower bass trombone. It just, yeah, it's amazing. As I said, it's not the easiest to play. I really have to dial my playing to suit this, and it's not like any of my other horns at all. I don't care. I'm going to keep it. It sounds so cool. In the recordings you can hear there's probably some things that make it a little difficult to actually express at times. I don't know. I thought it was pretty good. But for now, I'm keeping it. And honestly, if you see one of these for a good price, I've seen one at Brass Exchange and then this one at Dillon's recently, but not a lot other than that, I would consider getting it if you want something that's German style-ish, but also not completely weird or like 3 times, 4 times more expensive. Honestly, like people who are looking at tines and really like that tine sound, this is about as close as you can get and costs like a quarter the amount of a new tine. Yeah, so that's all the basses. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully at no point in the future ever again do I have 6 bass trombones. I do not need this many. And like I said, soon I will be down to at least 4 and perhaps 3 monster bass on the chopping block. That was a lot of playing, a lot of talking. More videos to come. And that's all I got. Bye.